Hey everybody, this is Will from Will's Personal Development Show, and today I have a very special guest, Timothy Chantarangsu, otherwise formerly known as Timothy DeLaGhetto. I'm going to give a quick bio and then let him introduce himself. He's an American rapper, comedian, actor. He's one of the OG YouTube personalities, and he's been on Wild and Out. And I'm very excited to have him along. Tim, welcome.
Thanks, man. Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Yeah, do you want to give yourself a little intro, kind of profile who you
Yeah,
are?
sure. My name's Tim Chantarangsu. That I'm going by my full government, my long Thai last name nowadays. I used to go by Timothy DeLaGhetto. That was my name on when I started making YouTube videos back in like 2006. And you might have seen the YouTube videos. If you haven't seen the YouTube videos, I used to do everything from like I would give relationship advice to a lot of comedy sketches. I rap on occasion. Now it's like it's primarily my podcast, the No Chaser podcast, and they really like when I do mukbangs. I do a lot of mukbangs. I was a cast member on MTV's Wild 'N Out for like 8 seasons. And if you don't know what that is, it's like a hip hop improv, whose line is it anyway type situation. And I have a food show called Send Foods that I do with my comedian homie David So, and and yeah, just working on a bunch of things. So I've been around on the internet space, and really trying to cross over into the traditional media side of things. Been trying to do that for a while, and just trying to represent for Asian dudes in the world.
Awesome. So I kind of want to jump into that first. We have a lot of Asian American millennial men. It's a
Mhm.
large portion of my listenership. So I figured we can start off by just kind of diving into some of the tips I had or I would like to get from you. So I guess, off the bat, there's a lot of common traits that, the stereotype has. And I have a list of some of them, and I just kind of want to kind of go through some of the main ones and kind of get your thoughts and your tips on them. So a lot of Asian men are very shy. They're not uh, confident. They're insecure. Um, how can they improve that?
You know what? Here's the thing. I feel like, yeah, that's a stereotype. But I mean, that has a lot to do with just how you grew up and where you grew up and your upbringing. Like my family, they're all like super funny and crazy. Like my parents are really like, they love to drink and have fun and make jokes. And like, I think that's why I was never, uh, like a shy kid. I was always pretty confident and outgoing. I know a lot of other Asian dudes who are like outgoing and funny, and I think, yeah, that's how definitely how we're portrayed on TV. Like, the Asian dudes are always the nerds, or um, that's pretty much it. Either the nerds or like the martial arts extras. Um, I think I think sometimes when that's kind of like the known stereotype, it's easy to kind of fall back and be like, oh, like, yeah, Asian dudes are all shy, but and yeah, like Asian people I know traditionally, tend to be a little more like, I don't want to say everybody's shy, but yeah, like it's an emphasis on like being respectful, and so people aren't as like out there with it. But in terms of Asian dudes, like tips for not being shy, I think you just kind of have to just it's hard to, like, whenever people ask me how do I not be shy, I'm always just like, dude, don't be shy. And it's hard to, it's kind of hard to really put into words. But for me, whenever people in general, not only Asian dudes, ask me like, yo, how are you so confident? Especially me being like, I'm a short guy. Like, I'm not like a tall Asian guy. I'm like 5'4", but I'm still, I'm like, I don't care. And I think a long time ago, I think I just had this realization that like, life is like really short, no pun intended. And I think, why waste time being worried about what other people think about you, or what their opinions are. I think a lot of people get in their head about getting rejected, or they think that they're gonna feel stupid if they try something and it doesn't work out. But I always tell dudes and Asian dudes and everybody, I'm like, that feeling of feeling stupid when you try something and it doesn't work out, or that feeling of rejection lasts for like 5 seconds and you feel dumb. But then like that feeling of regret where you're like, oh shit, I should have talked to her. And then, now she's gone forever. That could have been my wife. Like that lasts forever. You know what I'm saying? So for me, I think it's just really about getting outside of your comfort zone and not caring about what other people think, Asian or not. And then that's when you really just can make the most out of your life and all the situations in your life,
Yeah, yeah, and you brought up kind of Hollywood, and I was going to ask you later, but now's a good segue into that. So like, like you're kind of like in there, you're actually, you know, going to these TV shows, and you're part of that industry. So from like an outsider, what's it like? What's like the current state of like Hollywood? Like, um, how do we kind of break that mold of the Asian stereotype? Is that really an influence, or is it changing?
I mean, things are definitely better than they were 15 years ago. I mean, it's slow, but it's progressing. Like the reason I even got on YouTube to begin with is because I was trying to break into the acting industry, and I had an agent, but he wasn't doing anything for me because I felt like, no one really thought they wanted Asian dudes. Like I was really trying to get out there and get sent on auditions, and my agent at the time, I felt like just wasn't doing anything for me. All I really got was like some background work for Fast and the Furious Tokyo Drift. I was just like, background, like on the subway, And I think because of YouTube, because of the internet, because of social media, because people like crave and want diversity, and they've been making noise about it, it's definitely different now. When I got on YouTube back in like 2006, I was looking at it as a way to just kind of get my face out there and really kind of show the world that, not all Asian dudes were like super shy and timid and nerdy. Specifically because I remember like my favorite show growing up was like The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. And I remember one episode specifically where Carlton Banks, his little group of friends, saw his tuxedo that had like got shrunk at the dry cleaners, and they were like, "Hey, Carlton, nice tux." And it was like a bunch of like little like nerds, and the dude that said nice tux was an Asian guy, and I was like, "Damn, I've never seen an Asian guy on The Fresh Prince before," and it made me think, just as a little kid, I was like, "Wow, that's the only time I've ever seen an Asian guy on TV." Aside from like Dante Bosco, shout out to Dante Bosco, and I remember thinking, wow, this is how America sees Asian guys. And for me, I was like, that's not me. I'm not an Asian. I'm not like a nerd. I'm not timid. I'm not shy. So I really wanted to just put out content that would show whoever was down to watch that, we weren't all like that. And so that's why I started putting up YouTube content. And I feel like because there was a whole demographic of Asian people and Asian dudes who knew that Asian guys weren't like that and could identify with me and my personality, they felt like represented, they felt seen. That's why I kind of was able to build an audience on YouTube, because they were like, oh, finally, I see an Asian guy that's like me, who's like, being funny or making music or whatever. And now after being on YouTube for like 14 years, and back in I think 2013 is when I got on Wild 'N Out on MTV. I think initially where it was a shock to see an Asian guy doing the type of things I do, I think now because of movies like Crazy Rich Asians, even though not everybody loved Crazy Rich Asians, but it's a solid rom-com. I think now people are beginning to really be like, okay, yeah, let's get some Asian guys being some regular people. I think it's really like now more than ever, it's really, I'm seeing more and more parts for Asian guys popping up. People really want diversity. And I think, it's getting better. It's getting better.
Yeah, yeah. I definitely think you had a huge influence. I remember when YouTube was first getting way, and then you popped up, and it was completely different. So I think you definitely kind of helped change that culture, and it's still changing to this day with all these different influences.
Mm-hmm.
And I really hope that that new Marvel movie with the Asian superhero does well.
Yeah.
It's going to be tough, but I really hope it does well because I think that would definitely help.
I think it'll do well. I mean, like everybody loves Marvel movies, like literally Marvel could put out any movie and people are gonna watch it. So I think it'll be a good look. And the guy they got in the movie, he's sexy ass dude, he's buff. So I think it'll be a good look.
Yeah. So jumping back to some of these like tips and questions. Okay, so we kind of covered like shyness. You're very charismatic and you're very funny, and I think
Thank
it's
you.
really good for I mean it's just something amazing to kind of adopt. Everyone has their own personality, so I wouldn't recommend copying you, but I feel like they can, take inspiration from you. So do you have any like tips on just your that domain?
Man, you know what? I don't know. Like it's hard to
Hmm.
say. It's hard to give tips on like
That's okay.
being naturally charismatic. You know what I'm saying? But I'll say this. Like I've always just loved people. I've always been a really social person. So I think that's part of it. Like I enjoy interacting with people. So it's like because I enjoy that, it kind of comes naturally for me. And like I was an only child, so I watched a lot of TV. So like I think in terms of molding my personality, it's a lot of like Zach Morris. It's a lot of Fresh Prince. It's like dudes I saw on TV were like, wow, they're cool. They get girls. I would like to be as confident and as like charming as this dude. And I kind of really let that soak in. And I'm like, yeah, I can do that. Like for sure, watching the Fresh Prince growing up. And seeing the way he like went up to girls, I kind of took that approach where it was like, it was more like I'm goofy, I'm funny, and I'm gonna use this as my way to approach women. Like I never tried to be like the super like I'm super sexy dude, debonair guy. I think I saw a lot of myself in the Fresh Prince's style, and I was like, yeah, I can do that. So I think, yeah, you can you can be influenced by somebody. Of course, like the things you absorb as you're growing up will influence you. But in terms of like tips uh on being charming, I don't know, man. Just yeah, you just gotta be yourself. I feel like what's more charming than anything else is just being confident in who you are. Like whether you are a nerd or whether you are just like a goofy person. I think because I have a homie who he's like a he's like a nerd, right? In terms of like grew up loving Star Wars, loving comic books, loving gaming, build his own computers, but he was always popular. So he was like, because he was outgoing and he was funny, but he was still like a nerd, you know what I'm saying? And I think as long as you are 100% who you are and you just kind of don't worry about what other people think and you're able to really be free and open, I think people are drawn to that.
Yeah, yeah. I realize that's a tough question to ask, and you actually answered it pretty well. So, so that's definitely interesting.
Yeah,
Um,
and I also realize that's kind of easier said than done.
mhm.
Like, yeah, it's easy to just tell somebody, hey man, just stop being shy, just be confident. But I think just like anything else, it's something that you can conquer and you can do. Like anything, it takes practice, even if it's baby steps. And I also realize that I'm blessed to not have to deal with any type of like social anxiety or anything that really weighs on me mentally like that, because I know a lot of people do deal with that, and so it's not as easy to be like, hey man, just go talk to people. But I think if you just take baby steps and practice, going a little bit outside of your comfort zone here and there, you can start to build some good habits.
Yeah. So, in terms of uh, excellence, I have here another kind of cliche is that they often end up in these middle management jobs, never kind of reaching the top.
Mm-hmm.
And do you have any thoughts on that?
On Asian dudes ending up as middle management?
Yes. Yeah.
Is that like is that an Asian dude stereotype?
Uh, I'm I'm thinking like there'll be like the programmer at Facebook or something, but they'll never be the CEO of a startup company. I don't know.
Oh,
Maybe that's not a stereotype.
I didn't even know it was a stereotype.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like some of them, they have these like safe like guidelines from their parents. They don't want to risk anything because their parents think, oh, that's not safe. Don't go to Hollywood. Don't pursue acting.
Right.
Just get this safe, high income job as a doctor or lawyer.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, here's the thing. Here's the thing. You know, like yes, it's very easy to not take risks when you know that you can have more of a solid career, right? And I think that, I mean, it really all kind of boils down to what you want and the type of person you are. Like not every, like I've always known that I wanted to do the entertainment thing from a very young age. So even when my parents, wanted me to stay in college and get a degree, I always know that even if I got the degree, I dropped out of college, but even if I got the degree, I knew I would just kind of like give it to them and then be like, okay, I'm gonna go and try and be famous now. But I think it really depends on what you want out of life. I think a lot of people are afraid to take the risks. But if you want higher rewards, you have to be willing to take risks. For me, I didn't even really feel like going into the entertainment business was like a risk, because I always kind of felt like I knew it's what I was going to be doing. And here's the thing about Asian parents. It's like they'll tell you that they want you to have like security until you start making a lot of money, and then you give them money and then they're like, oh, okay, cool, do whatever you want.
Yeah.
Because my dad used to tell me all the time. My dad would be like, you know what? Okay, cool. Okay, you can go do your entertainment stuff. Just make sure you get your degree. Just make sure you get your degree. And I would tell him, I'm like, all right, Dad, yeah, I'll get the degree, whatever. And then I dropped out of college, and then after I was able to like really get to a place where I could like pay off their house and take care of them, they were like, okay, fine, that's cool, do whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've seen that a lot. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't really know what to tell you about that. Like, I'm like, because I don't really, I didn't really know that was like a stereotype for Asian dudes.
Mm.
I think that's kind of on anybody. It's like I think a lot of people that when you get to a point where you have to figure out what you want to do in life, there are the people that want to take risks because they're not satisfied, and then the people who are completely satisfied. And I think sometimes people are satisfied, and that's cool.
Yeah. Yeah, I could totally see that. I see a lot of that's exactly what happens with a lot of influencers. They kind of their parents are kind of against it, and then once they hit and they make that money, it's like their parents are okay with it. Um, so another question, in terms of Hollywood and kind of the entertainment industry, do you think like now it's possible for like you're a rapper, like is it possible for an Asian American to hit the A-list in the music industry or in Hollywood right now?
Yeah, well, you know what? I think now it's now is the better time than ever, you know? Like everybody wants diversity now, you know? Even if they just want it just so they can look good on social media, it's like that it's a good time to be diverse. Nowadays, for shows and movies that are casting people, they don't want a cast of all white people because they know that people are sick of that. Now it's like we want diversity. I was literally just in a really big production a couple days ago because they specifically wanted it to not be all white. They didn't want it to be all black. They wanted a diverse cast. So my boy hit me up and he was like, "Hey man, I need like a diverse cast for this thing." And it was like me, and it was two black dudes, and it was a Persian guy, and it was like a Latino dude, and and that's what Hollywood wants right now. So I feel like for Asians or anybody ethnic in the entertainment industry, this is a good time to do it. They're looking for new faces. They're looking for representation. For me, I felt like, it's a good time for me because I've been building my audience for like almost 15 years now. And of course, like Hollywood, you know, they are, they like to look towards people with a lot of followers because it helps their overall like just promotion for their product or whatever. So the fact that I've built this audience over the past 10, 15 years and I kind of like I can do the acting and I can do the writing and stuff like that. It's like I'm in a good place to, potentially open up some doors and get in there. So I think now more so than ever, Hollywood is looking for diverse stories, and I think Asians are. There's like a nice little like wave that's like bubbling right now. I feel with the new Marvel movie, with Crazy Rich Asians doing so well. With I think it's a good time. I think it's a good time. It's not gonna be overnight, and it hasn't been overnight. Like I said, I've been doing this shit for like 15 years, and I feel like I just got my foot in the door. But I think it's moving in the right direction.
Yeah, I believe it. I recently finished Bruce Lee's biography, and I mean, what a story, man. Like this guy, I mean, his brother got straight A's, but he uh did poorly in school. And if it wasn't for the fact that he did poorly in school, he never would have, went on this pathway that he did,
Mm-hmm.
eventually going to Hollywood and all this stuff. So I think, he definitely kicked the door open, and then
Yeah, literally.
unfortunately he died. But I think, we can, it's inspirational.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. And that's the thing, I think you kind of have to kick the door open a little bit. And I think we've been kicking at it for a while. I've definitely, had my frustrations in the entertainment industry, trying to get in there, trying to get just my face and my foot in the door. And I think it's creaking open a little bit. So it's good. It's good. Times are changing.
Okay, awesome. Um, let's talk about making friends. Making friends with women, making friends with other people. I
Okay.
think there's a lot of ways we can go about this. For me, I noticed a lot of Asians when I grew up. They would only hang around other Asian friends.
Hmm.
But I always kind of chose to hang with all different diversities. It was just
Yeah.
kind of was what I preferred doing. And then so we could talk about from that angle, or we could talk about just from making friends with women.
Yeah, sure. Let's talk about friends first. I think, it's natural for you to gravitate towards people that look like you and are the same ethnicity as you, just because there's gonna be like an automatic common ground and similar interests. Uh, I had a super diverse group of friends from like preschool to eighth grade of like all colors. And then I remember my first time going to a public high school where I didn't know anybody. I was feeling like, damn, I don't have any friends right now. What do I do? And then I found this tree where all the Asian people at the high school hung out at, because it wasn't, the high school I went to was like predominantly Hispanic, Mexican to be exact. And then after that it was black, and then after that it was like a little bit of Asian and white and Pacific Islander kind of sprinkled throughout. And then when I saw the Asian tree, I was like, oh wow, okay, oh, there's Asians that come to the school. I didn't even know. Cool. And I remember like I made eye contact with one guy who saw me just kind of like by myself, and he kind of nodded at me, and he knew, he kind of like he automatically was like, yes, come to us. And everybody was cool, I think, but I was there for like 2 weeks during lunch just because it was nice to have people to eat lunch with. And then I remember just kind of looking around, and I felt a little weird that we were friends just because we were Asian. I was kind of like, do I actually like these people, or am I just here because we're Asian? And I felt a little weird about it, just because I was used to just like having like my real friends that I grew up with. So then I eventually left the Asian tree and just made different friends through classes and different clubs after school and stuff like that. And I don't say that to say that there's anything wrong with gravitating towards your own kind, because like I said, that's going to naturally happen, and you can, of course you're going to build real friendships through that, because like friendships come from having common bonds and interests. But for me, it was a little weird for me at first, so I just kind of, and like I said, I'm a pretty social person, so it wasn't hard for me to just make friends. But I think it just kind of comes down to putting yourself out there, and whenever like younger kids hit me up asking me how to make new friends and how to like socialize, I always tell them like, hey man, like join an after school club, find something you're interested in. I think that's where most people like find your good friends, whether you're working together or you're going to the same Rick and Morty chat rooms or something. Like you just kind of build bonds with each other through shared interests, and yeah. What was the question?
Yeah, I think you got it. Yeah, so it was asking, it's basically how you answered it, whether you should kind of hang with people you like or people you aren't. And you kind of said you should put yourself out there, and kind of find those similar interests and those similar activity groups.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Cool. So
oh yeah, and then you said talking to girls, right?
yeah.
Yeah. So I think, and if we're talking about Asian guys specifically, I always get dudes writing to me like, Tim, like I'm Asian, but like the girls in my city or wherever I'm from, they don't really date Asian guys. And I feel like that's just them making up an excuse, man. Like a lot of girls are open to trying different types of men and different types of dating. I think there's girls everywhere that are curious about Asian guys. Like in my experience, I've never, I feel like I've never been to a city and been like, oh, they don't like Asian guys here. I think that it's like, if you approach girls, somebody will say yes. And I think a lot of times dudes are just like scared to approach or scared to put themselves out there. Like the Asian guys, some of the Asian guys I knew growing up, they would only approach women that they knew liked them back. And that's the thing. A lot of people are just afraid of rejection. And like I said earlier, you know, like when you get rejected by a girl, you feel dumb for like 5 seconds. But then like that feeling of like, damn, I should have said something to her just will last with you for like forever. And I specifically say that because there was this like pretty ass girl at a Vans store one time when I was like young, like 12 or 13. And I remember being like, oh man, she's so hot. I'm gonna go talk to her. I'm gonna go talk to her. But I didn't. And I kept like second guessing myself. And then when I was finally like, okay, I'm gonna go talk to her, she was gone already. And I was like, damn, that could have been my wife. And I fucking missed out because I was scared and I was nervous. And then from then on, I was like, all right, I'm never gonna be scared again. I'm just gonna go up. I'm just gonna talk, because even if she says no, I will at least know that like this is not the one for me. And that's the thing too. It's like they're scared of being rejected. But if this girl is like lame enough to be like, oh no, I don't date Asian guys, then you know she's lame and you don't want to deal with her anyways. But then I feel like for every lame girl that is like, oh no to Asian guys, there's a girl that's gonna be like, yeah, no, let's go on a date, you know, let's do it. Especially nowadays with K-pop being so popping, it's like women love Asian men right now. K-pop is so popular, and like I think, you know, and if they've never dated an Asian guy before, they're for sure curious about it. For me, and look, it's easier as an outgoing, funny person, right? But one thing that I used to do that would always work for me is like, when I was in, like you use that diversity, like you use their lack of Asian experience to your advantage. You know what I'm saying? Where it's as easy as being like, oh damn, you've never had pho before? I know a great pho spot. I can take you. Like, oh girl, you've been eating nothing but chow mein your whole life. That's not even real Asian food. Let me take you to get some real Asian food. And like, or okay, so here, okay, so when I was younger and I was like dating a lot, one thing that I used to love, like if I ever came across a girl that had never dated an Asian guy before or had never done anything with an Asian guy before, I made it like my goal to like be her first Asian guy. So I would always be like, or even like if like stupid shit, like if we were at a party and I met some girl who was like, oh, I've never dated an Asian guy. So I'd be like, oh, well, so you're saying you've never kissed an Asian guy before? And they'd be like, no. Then I'd be like, okay, you know what you should do? We should just kiss right now. just to say that you've kissed an Asian guy before, like for once in your whole life. We should just kiss. And they'll be like, oh my God, are you serious? You're crazy. And then they're like, all right, fine. And then you kiss. And then after you kiss, they're like, they fall in love, and and then you get married, and it's like perfect. but you know, and I know that's just like, that's silly, but I think the main issue is the issue isn't that girls won't date Asian guys. The issue is that Asian guys think girls won't date Asian guys, so they don't approach. I think that's the main issue. Like, yeah, for sure, society and the media, you know, they've put out these like negative images of Asian dudes where, you know, they're nerdy or they're not as manly, and of course there's like the little dick stereotype. But there are girls out there that are curious and down. Like, trust me, like I've messed with and canoodled with like many women who have never like dated Asian dudes before, or women that actually really do like Asian dudes, but they never get approached. So they never get to experience that. Like, for every guy that writes me and is like, hey man, how come girls don't like Asian guys? There's girls of all ethnicities who have written to me and have been like, Tim, I really find Asian guys hot, but none of them ever talk to me. So I just assume they don't like me. And so I think, you know, that's a big part of the issue too. It's like, hey man, girls want the Asian D, bro. You just have to be willing to put it out there, you know?
Yeah, you brought up some great points there. I think for sure, I think one of the reasons I stopped going to like these like Facebook groups with Asian men is because a lot of them are kind of like shooting themselves in the foot, or they're very, very negative. And so like if you have that mindset to just to begin with. Like
Yeah.
it's just like everything is just confirming like what your beliefs, even if that's
Hmm.
not true.
Hmm.
So that's a good point there. And a little story about me. I think so. Fun fact: a lot of the dates that I've been on have not been they haven't been Asian,
Hmm.
and most of them really like K-pop. So there's definitely something going on there with the with
Yeah.
BTS helping out.
Yeah, bro. I mean, and and I understand that, like, if you want to get super woke with it, there's like the danger of borderline, like, okay, is this girl like fetishizing me? And does she just want to date me just because she's obsessed with K-pop? But like, to be honest, when I was single, like, I didn't care. Like, if I was like, if this beautiful woman wants me to fulfill her fetish of a K-pop star and she wants to like hook up just because I'm Asian, I do not care. You know, I feel like, for me, you know, I mean, like, I think it's different for Asian women. I think that gets a little creepy when dudes want to fetishize Asian women. But like, I definitely used to kind of date a girl who, like, we started messaging because she was like obsessed with K-pop. She was Hispanic, and she was obsessed with K-pop, and then she like messaged me, and then we started dating, and then like even when we dated, like, I thought she was gonna take me to some like to get some Dominican food, but she would take me to get ramen, and she would take me to like all like the Asian spots. And it was like a big influence on just the stuff she liked, you know? Um, but yeah, guys, I say you should capitalize on the world's love of K-pop right now, because there are a bunch of K-pop fans who are curious, you know?
Yeah, I will admit for my listeners out there that not all like that was definitely a concern of mine when I first started noticing it. Like, oh, do they only like me because of K-pop? And it kind of got a little I got a little insecure about that. I would always kind of throw in like, do you like K-pop like during the date? But I will say that like a good portion of them like don't listen to K-pop, or if they do, it's just like, yeah, I listen to K-pop, but like barely. I barely know like that many songs. So like it wasn't like once I saw that, I was like, okay, I can chill out a bit on that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But you know, and that's the thing. It's like, I think the K-pop wave is not only good for Asian guys, but I think it's good for Asian people in general. You know, I think it gets a whole culture and like demographic of people that maybe weren't used to consuming any type of Asian content before, like, curious and open to it. Like, not only do they love the music and they love the men, but they're like, oh, you know, I want to learn about like the food and the language and the culture, you know. And I see a lot of that has happened, and I think that's dope. So.
Yeah, so you've been with these like top influencers, you've worked with them. King Bach is what comes to mind most for me right now. Um, do you have any just social media tips on staying relevant for or growing from nothing?
Sure. You know, it's hard nowadays. To giving someone advice on growing on social media, it's tricky, because I feel like even you can learn all the tips, and you can still, you know, you never know. Sometimes the tips will help, and sometimes they won't at all, you know. But for me, I feel like in terms of social media, for building your following on whatever app it may be, whether it's Twitter or Instagram or YouTube or whatever, or TikTok, I think consistency is key, because people really they consume so much content nowadays. They like to consume as much of it as possible. A lot of the top dudes will tell you like, yeah, you know, I'm posting a TikTok every day. I'm posting like 2 Instagram pictures a day. I'm like, they're just being consistent. You know, they're just cranking out content. Um, I think that it helps to stay like, pay attention to the trends, pay attention to things that, you know, either like a lot of people are doing or a lot of people are talking about. Like, I always say one of the best things for building your audience is to do what everybody is doing, but in your own way, you know, because nowadays in such a saturated time where everybody's uploading content, everyone's trying to be like social media famous. There's a lot of people putting out content. So if you can find like a trend or something to kind of get yourself in front of people who would normally find you, and then find your own way to do it so you stick out from the crowd, that's what's going to make someone be like, oh, okay, this is different. I'm gonna subscribe, I'm gonna follow, I'm gonna stick around to see what else they may have coming up, you know? So yeah.
Gotcha. And I've also noticed you've switched it up a lot, which is kind of because I've seen a lot of YouTubers come and go,
Yeah.
and now you're doing these hour-long videos, which is brand new.
Yeah, you kind of have to evolve with the changing of the times for sure. You know, you kind of have to pay attention on like not only what's trending, but just how the like the phases of everything works. You know, like I started off doing mainly short form sketches, like comedy skits, and back then like those did really well. But now I feel like YouTube is different, and not only do they like YouTube, like the actual app and like the algorithm of it, I feel like they tend to push out longer content. I think a lot of people, they don't really go to YouTube to consume in short doses anymore. Now it's like they would prefer longer videos. I feel like a lot of people are just kind of like, they like to put something on and listen to it, or, you know, put something on in the shower. They're not really consuming content the same way. So which is why I switched over to like my podcast, and I started doing the mukbangs more often because people really like to just sit and eat while I sit and eat with my friends for whatever reason. And you know, you know, it definitely helps to pay attention to what the world is consuming, you know, and how they consume it for sure.
Gotcha. Is there any question I haven't asked around Asian American men that you would like me to ask you to kind of help them out more?
Um, um, you know, I kind of feel like, I mean, nothing comes to mind unless you have anything that comes to mind.
Um, so I feel like a lot of times people listen to a whole podcast and they'll kind of forget a lot of what is in there. So if you
Mhm.
had like this one thought, like if they forgot everything else and you wanted them to remember one thing at the end of the episode, what would that be?
Sure. I mean, I feel like, you know, I said it before, and and this is just kind of how I live my life is like I feel like life is short. You could die at any second. I could literally, you know, like a bird could fly through my window right now and like pierce me through the brain with its beak, and I could die, you know? And I feel like life is too short to be worried about what other people think about you, and you might as well do what you want and make the most out of life. And and you know, hold on, let me get this together a little more.
Take
I
your
feel
time.
like, yeah, like I was saying, like, you know, life is short. You never know what can happen, and I really think it's a waste of time to be wasting your life concerned about other people's thoughts and opinions. And I think once you truly embrace who you are, then you get to experience everything that life has to offer, you know, and whether that be in your love life or your career or just whatever you want to do, when you stop letting go, oh no, when you stop worrying about what people are going to think, then you just kind of get to live life to the fullest, you know? You get what you want out of it.
Yeah, that's a nice one. That's definitely applicable to like everything we've mentioned so far, parents and women and everything. I like that.
Yeah, man, you know, like I mean, especially, you know, when you go back to Asian dudes, and let's say the stereotype is not getting what they want out of their career, or not getting the women. It all kind of boils down to the thoughts and opinions of other people. You know, it's like if you're worried about your family telling you that, like, you know, you shouldn't go after the career you want, or if you're worried about this girl rejecting you before you even go up and talk to her, then you're never gonna try and talk to her. And like, if you don't try to go after that career, then you'll never know if you would have like moved up in the company and got the position you wanted. You know, it's like really all about just making mistakes and trying to go after what you want in life, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, final questions. What are your future plans? Are you trying to
Oh
kind
wait,
of?
you know what? I do want to say one more thing.
Oh yeah, go for it.
I always kind of tell people, okay, because in my old YouTube videos, I always used to say like, oh yeah, my dick isn't big, but it's pretty, right?
Mm.
And I remember like a dude wrote to me and he's like, bro, why do you say that your dick's not big but it's pretty? Like you're making Asian guys look bad, and because that's a stereotype. And I would always be like, well, first of all, I'm not saying all Asian guys got little dicks, because that's not true. I'm saying specifically mine's not big but it's pretty. But I used to say that, and because for me it was more of like a metaphor, all right? Because like for an Asian guy, it seems like the worst thing you can say to an Asian dude is like, oh, like you got a little dick. Like that's what someone says to an Asian dude when they're really trying to like fucking like hurt his feelings, you know?
Mm.
But for me, I really wanted to show people that like, regardless of what quote unquote handicap you think you have or obstacle you have in life, it shouldn't stop you from getting what you want out of life, you know? So like when I would make the joke about like, oh yeah, my dick ain't big, but it's pretty, I wanted them to see that like, regardless of that, I was still a very confident person. I was still getting women, you know, I was still like very experienced with women. Like you could look at my ex was beautiful, my wife is beautiful. So like anybody that was like, oh, Asian guys got little dicks, I was like, hey bro, well look, I'm here, my dick ain't big, but I'm still using it a lot, you know? And for me, I was like, I wanted to use that as like more of a metaphor to be like, hey guys, look, stop worrying about what other people think, because here's the thing, if a woman is curious about your penis, then she's gonna play with it regardless. And there's a lot of, like I said earlier, a lot of women are curious about Asian dudes, so you shouldn't let that stereotype or any of that get in your head and keep you from going after whoever you want to go after, you know? And whether that's in your relationship or in job or life, you shouldn't let, like I said, you shouldn't let other people's opinions keep you from just going after what you want, you know? That's it.
Yeah, one of the things I loved is your attitude, not just with this, but I noticed it throughout your kind of career. It's kind of like, for example, when you rebranded to your new name,
Yeah.
Chantarangsu,
Mm-hmm.
the attitude you had with that was like, hey, this is an amazing name. I'm excited to share it with you. You're gonna love it. And that's something I picked up. I don't know if you noticed, but you know, that's something that I think many people can kind of learn from, because
Mm-hmm.
sometimes instead they're scared, they're insecure about it.
Right.
But you definitely kind of, I don't know, you position it as like, this is awesome, and it is.
Thanks. And you know what, that works with anything, you know? It's like, and that's what, and that kind of goes back to being just a confident person too. It's like, you know, they say if you walk into a room, like you should be loved and respected, and that's how you carry yourself, people will like love and respect you. You know what I'm saying? They'll be like, oh wow, like this guy's energy, like wow, I fuck with this guy. I don't even know why, but I like this guy, you know? And that's why I try to just put it out into the universe like that. And when I changed and started using my long Thai last name, you know, and that was really about like me just like wanting to just be 100% like just take hold of who I am, and and also like for Asian people who were because when I was growing up, I felt like if I wanted to make it in Hollywood, I needed to have like a stage name that was more marketable, that was more rememberable. And then, that's why I started using the stage name. But then I realized, like, nah, you know what? Like, I don't need a stage name. Like, people should know what my long ass Thai last name is, and I should make them learn how to say it, learn how to spell it, and fully, I shouldn't have to bend for them. They should bend for me. You know what I'm saying? It's not even a hard name to learn once you figure it out. So yeah, that's what that was all about.
Gotcha. Uh, Thank you so much for being on here. Sending you lots of love. Do you have what are your future career plans? And feel free to plug anything
Yeah,
you want to plug.
I'm working on a few different food shows right now. I just shot a little something with MTV that that could be something. I don't want to jinx it, but there's some stuff, and I'm trying to like work on some new music soon. It's been a while since I put out some new music, and I'm working on writing my own movie, and just trying to plant a bunch of seeds that I feel like will blossom into some good things.
Awesome. Thanks so much for coming with me on this journey, and thank you for listening. Please subscribe and rate and review.
Oh yeah. YouTube.com/Timothy, Instagram Tim Chantarangsu. That's it.
Thanks, everyone. Take care.
Cool. Cool, bro.